Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the InduSoft webinar covering symbols. We got a busy schedule here for this webinar. Going to try to cram everything into just over an hour or so. We had a lot of questions come in during the registration. I'll try to get to those as well. My name is Scott Courtier. I'm one of the technical salespeople for InduSoft, and we're going to go ahead and get started here. Thank you for joining, first of all, and just if you've never joined us before, or even if you have, just a reminder that I can't hear you, so if you try to speak, there's no way for me to hear you. The way that you can communicate to me is through the chat panels or the Q&A panel. So if you have any questions, try to throw those in there, and I will more than likely get to them at the end of the webinar, but if it's directly related and I happen to notice while I'm giving the webinar, then I might answer the question during the webinar, but there'll be a Q&A session at the end. Also, there'll be, if you fill out the survey that you receive, we'll send you off a free t-shirt. And again, thank you for joining, and we hope you find this interesting, entertaining, and informative. So let's go ahead and get started. A brief overview of symbols, what they are. I'm going to cover that, and just as a reminder, we have a training video on our website that's part of our training video series, symbols, so feel free to take a look at that. I'm not going to cover a lot of the basics, but I want to make sure that you do understand that, but we're going to assume that you've made at least one symbol or have the need or the want or the understanding of creating those as well. Then we're going to jump in and create several of these symbols here. Maybe, hopefully we'll get through all of them. I'm going to create an LED segment meter, some gauges with some alarm levels, some alarm lights, clocks, a pattern login, kind of similar to that you might find in a phone. And if I can get to it, I'm going to do the tanks using class tags. So some common uses of symbols. The linked symbol idea, the fact that they are graphics and they reference one design that you have in the library. And if you change that design, all the symbols that point to that one file will be changed in your project. That's very nice to keeping a common interface, a common look and feel. The other thing that we have is this idea of these custom properties. And that's really where we're going to focus today's webinar, is the custom properties idea. And then we'll talk a little bit about using the included symbol library and explode some of those symbols and show you how some of those are configured. And then really what this is all about is creating your own symbols and how you can share these with others just by sharing the symbol files. So the idea here is you have this custom property syntax, and I've copied and pasted this directly out of our technical reference. And today I'm going to just ignore this category. It's an optional way to further name or further categorize or stratify the properties. But really what we're looking at is this pound sign in front, the property, a colon, and then optionally a value. And this property and this value fields here, really what this is relating to, and I'm going to open up a project that I started here a bit ago and create a new screen. And for example, if I was to draw a rectangle on this screen, it has an object properties window that looks something similar to this, and there's a lot of different object property windows within InduSoft that look kind of similar to this. If I pull a symbol from the symbol library, and let's say I pull a slider, and I know I'm going to use this here in a minute, so let's get this properties window off. This properties window looks a little bit different. In this case, it has a property column and a value column. Well, where that comes from is back here in this presentation is this property field that's been preceded by a pound sign and then a value field. In this case, you can see here that we've got the maximum is set to 100, the minimum is set to 0, and the tag name is empty. And that value property is left blank. Let's edit this symbol here. So I've now opened the symbol library, and I've done this by right-clicking and going to Edit Link Symbol, and it's opened up this symbol editor here. It's not really a screen editor, it's a symbol editor. This particular slider happens to be grouped. You don't have to group them, but It's just a little bit more convenient sometimes. I'm going to pull this little slider handle out, and this is a bitmap that was brought in. This was as a linked picture and then given a visibility or position animation. Well, it's not using the visibility and it's not using the horizontal, it's only using the vertical, so you can slide it up and down. And you can see this same notation here, this $min:0, $max: 100, and $tag name, and then it's left blank afterwards. Well, that's what generates these two columns here, this property columns. So that $max 100, $min 0, and $tag: blank is what generated this. So that allows you to kind of fill those in during your development and create a linked symbol, if you will, back to the main design. So, or those custom properties, I should say. So anyway, what we're going to do here is the first thing we'll do is to create a segment meter based on some rectangles. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw and test this by just drawing some rectangles. And the first thing that I'm going to do is just change this to be a solid line, a black outline, and then a black fill in the middle, just so you won't see that. And then what we'll do is we'll configure the first one of these to have a color animation on it. And when I click on this, what I'm going to do is set this to a tag name. And to test this, I'm not going to make it a symbol yet. I just want to use regular tags. So what I'll do is I'll just call this test tag. And I want this to show up when I'm going to slide this from 0 to 100. I'm going to create 10 of these. So I need this one to show up when it's anywhere greater than 0. And what I'll do is I'll make it so that, well, first of all, that tag doesn't exist. So we're going to make that an integer. And what I'll do is I'll make this black when it's off and then green when it's on. Or in this case, I'm going to have 10 of these stacked on top of each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these custom colors here, and I'm going to go from a darker green to a lighter green to a yellow to an orange to a red for all 10 of these, and that'll create a nice graduated symbol there. So what I'll do is for the first layer, I'll pick a dark green, and so that is going to be when test tag is greater than 0. So the next one that I want up by holding the control key down, I need this next one when it's greater than 10. Oops, not 100, but 10. And I need to change this to a little bit lighter green, kind of a middle green color here. We'll go in here, and maybe we'll pick this middle green, this next one here in the chart. Copy this up, and when this is greater than 20, we'll have it be yet another lighter shade of green here. And I'm just going to work my way up through here. I'm going to stop talking for a moment. I'm going to change this to 30 and go all the way up to 90. So bear with me a second as I add these in here. So I have 0, 10, 20, 30. This one will be 40. And now I'll start to get into maybe the yellow colors. 50. 60. Oh, what I don't remember if I changed the color there. So let's see. All right. So no, I didn't change the color here. And we'll get this one kind of a little rusty color there. And then this one, let's see, so 50, 60, 70, just a couple more to do here. And we'll make this one kind of a darker red. And 80. This plum, and last but not least, 90 will be a true red here. All right, so what I have, just as a review, is I should have 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and between 90 and 100, it will show the top one there. So what I'm going to do is stack these on top of each other to make them look like they're all one unit. And then we'll jump into the runtime and see how this looks. Again, this is just a test before we get into the symbol portion of this. So at this point, I'm going to not save that slider. Because I'm using that test tag, I need to configure it on here. So let's go in here, select this as test tag, and go ahead and run this. And we should get 10 segments. And we got some colors up there at the top, but you could change those colors depending on how you go. Okay, so we got this segment meter working. Now I'm going to turn it into a symbol. Now the way that we're going to do that is we're going to use those same syntax that we talked about earlier, and we're going to change this. Instead of using test tag in here, what I'm going to do is revert it to that syntax that we had before. So I'm going to put a pound sign in here, and then the name of the property. So in this case, to stick with some of the other ones that we have, we're going to call this tag name, and then a colon. And I don't have to have anything after that. So whatever I put into that value field during the properties configuration, it's going to replace this here and then compare it to whether or not it's greater than 0. So what I can do is copy this text and go through all of these. So bear with me again for a second while I do this and just work my way up through all of these here. And there's probably some kind of search and replace that I can do, but I think about 10 is my limit where I can do this manually and until I figure out how to do all the searches and replaces or whatever exists. But you'll see here as we go along. And if we get a segment that's not configured properly, we'll, I think I just noticed one here. So let's see here. We got, pull these off here. We have 70, 80, and 90. I guess they're okay. All right, we'll put these back together. Now that we have the custom properties configured in there, now we need to make it a linked symbol. And how we do that is we select this and we just right-click anywhere on here and say Create Linked Symbol. And once we do that, it gives us the opportunity to save this in our project symbols. So I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call this LED and go inside of here, and we'll call this LED. And I know that I'm going to create some horizontal and some different versions of this, so let's give this a little bit of a naming convention. We'll call this vertical LED underscore 01. Now what this has done, you can see from this slider here too, is that when we symbols from the system symbols, any symbols that we've used in our project, it's made a copy of them in our project symbols, so it's put them in here. So this slider, one, it's copied from our system symbols into our project. That way if we make modifications to this, it doesn't change our global system symbols. So that's why they're contained within the project. Now that I have this, you can see that the properties box has changed now. It's a symbol level, and that tag name property, and remember I didn't have anything after the colon, is now left blank. So whenever we put this test tag in here, it will get replaced over that tag name in the symbol. So let's give this a try. Now when I run this, so you can see this is now a symbol, and it goes from 0 to 100 as I slide this slider up and down. Well, we're going to take this another step, and one of the reasons why I named that 01 is so I can copy this and make changes to this and not affect the first one. So I'm going to right-click and edit this linked symbol, and essentially that's still its individual components now that I'm editing this as a symbol. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and allow you to change the minimum and the maximum value. Well, in order to do that, I have to know the top level and the bottom level. And let's start by putting a kind of a formula in here, and the way this is going to work is the bottom one is just going to be # tag name, but then we have to know that it's greater than the minimum level. So instead of putting 0 in here kind of hard-coded, what I'm going to do is put # min and then a colon and a 0. Now that'll set us up to have a field to be able to change this 0 at the object properties level. Now I can do that again on the top one to have the maximum up there, but the ones in between are a little bit more you have to do some more configuration on them. And the reason is we have to know what the difference between the top level or the maximum and the minimum level will be, and then add an offset in, a percentage, and then an offset in. So what we're going to end up with is something that looks like this. And to save some time, what I've done is I've configured this off screen, and I'm just going to copy it and paste it, and then I'll explain it so we don't have to type it. So here we have the # tag name colon, and that'll show that object property, or that's the name of the property. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the maximum minus the minimum, and that's going to give us the total height here, and we're going to multiply it by 0.1, or the 10%. So that's going to be, the first one will be 10%, 20, 30, 40, all the way up to the top. And then we have to add in the offset from the minimum in here. So you can copy this formula and use it. You'll see how this works in a minute. But basically that's what I'm going to do, is copy this and just change that 10% to the 20%, or 0.2, and walk my way up through all of these. So 30 will become 0.3, 40 will become 0.4, and I'm just copying and pasting here. 50, 60. And you can see how I'm building on this. I'm keeping the same color scheme that I had, or by editing the first one, I'm really just keeping everything else intact and just changing the expression in here. And the last one, we can do this as just the maximum, I think. Now let's just do this. We'll just do the 0.9, and it will all work out to be the same. There we go. Now, when I put this all back together, what we're going to do is we're going to save this not as symbol 1. We're going to save this as symbol as vertical LED 2. So I'm going to come in here, save as, and I'm going to change this name to be number 2. And when I save this, it's going to warn me that any changes are not going to take effect until you save the screen that they're on. And here you can see that this one is referencing symbol or LED, vertical LED 1, whereas this one is referencing vertical LED 1. Wait a minute. What is that? Well, if you remember, I made a copy of this and I did a save as, but I never came back and changed this one. I don't necessarily want to use this one on the screen. I want to go back into my LEDs and grab number 2. So here you can see it's number 2. That's why now I get the minimum and maximum properties, because I configured it in that number 2 LED. So let's go ahead and put a tag in here. In this case, I've been using test tag. Let's use test tag 2, and then I'll copy this. That doesn't exist. Let's make it an integer. Let's copy this slider over here, and we'll tie this to test tag 2. So now when we run this, the same, because I still have those minimums and maximums set to 0 and 100. Okay, good. That works the same. So that functionality works. But now, if I go back in and say set this to minus 100 to plus 100, and I'll go in and edit the slider here as well. It's not going to display on the slider very well, but you'll get the point. So now it's minus 100 to 100. And when I come in here and I slide this, this is now minus 100. And I go up, and the 50% level is going to reference roughly 0, or exactly 0. And then I have now this scalable one that allows me to configure a minimum and maximum as well as a tag name. So one other step that I wanted to show you just to maybe make this look a little bit better, we'll edit this linked symbol and we'll I'll just go ahead and edit this one instead of creating a third one. Just from a look, a nice look, what we can do is we'll draw a rectangle around this, and I will change this to a raised, and we'll change this to a kind of a medium gray, and then I will copy this rectangle, and I know that that LED portion is kind of right here in the middle, and then I will change this rectangle to a sunken, and then I'll grab both of these rectangles and then push them behind everything else. And I only got my adjustments off here a little bit, so I'll grab this, bring it in a little bit, and with some finer adjustments, there's a nice looking symbol. One other thing that I'm going to put down here is maybe the digital display version of that. So I'm going to add a rectangle and take away the border and the background, and in the caption field, inside of curly brackets, I'm going to add that same syntax, the # tag name and a colon, close the curly brackets. Now that will reference the same one that the LEDs are referencing, and that looks like it's positioned okay. Now when I save this, you can see that it saved it here on the screen, and now when I run this, I can see the value, and it's a nice looking meter display. So hopefully that's something that might work for you guys. Now we're going to jump into the next symbol that I wanted to create. Let me go back up here. Is some gauges with some alarm levels. All right, so let's save this screen as LED, and we'll close it, and we'll create a new screen. And now here what we're going to do is create a page that has a needle on it and some alarm set points. So let's get started here. I'm going to draw a circle. Now I know just from experience that I want this to be 256 pixels by 256 pixels. Once I get that, then I'm going to configure it to have no line border, and I'm going to create some fill effects or a gradient, and what I'm going to choose is kind of a light gray to a white, and I'm going to have this from the center out, and I might even have this as a lighter gray here, just so I have kind of a little bit of a dusting of a color in there. Now that I know that's 256 pixels as a circle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another circle, and I'm going to change it to be 10 pixels more. So this will be 266 by 266, and the colors, what I'm going to do here is make some shadowing, some shading, if you will. So I'm going to come up from the diagonal, and the first layer is going to have the corner is lighter and then darker as you go down, and then I'm going to make another copy of this and kind of flip that. So instead of lighter up at the corner, I'm going to have darker up at the corner, and then what we can do is we can push this one to the back and bring this one in front. And now when I layer these all on top of each other, I can select all three of these and go through the Format, Align Center, Align Middle, and oh, you know what, I didn't make the back one. I wanted to make that one 276 pixels. And now I'll go through and align those again. And now you can see there's a nice looking beveled edge there. I can group that, and it might be nice to group that so I don't accidentally move those around. Now we're going to put a needle on the meter, and I'm just going to do that simply with a line. And I'm just going to guess, and I'm going to use the alignment tools here in a minute. And I know that's probably a little bit higher than we need, but let's go in and make that a red needle. And now we're going to align that needle. If I can select it here, let's do this. Select that, select the gauge by holding down the Shift key, and then I'm going to go into Format, Align, Align Center. All right, I am going to select this needle, and I can see here down in the status bar that it's 1 pixel wide by 117 pixels tall. To add the rotation to this, I'm going to go here under Graphics and add a rotation animation, and then open that up. And in this rotation animation, to start off with, I'm just going to put a tag name in here. I think I used test tag. I can just start with that one here. And I need to be able to rotate that around this bottom point. Well, I can choose right bottom or left bottom, and that will rotate it around that bottom point. Another way to do this, well, I guess that's probably good enough. We'll choose left bottom, and with that test tag, the range will be from 0 to 100, because I'm just going to bring in another slider, and we'll rotate that. Now, I want this to start not at the top, but I want it to start kind of down here on the lower left and rotate not all the way around, but over here to the lower right. And I know just from some experimentation that that's negative 135 degrees from where it's at to positive 135 degrees to over on the other side. So let's give this a quick test. Let me bring in that symbol, and we'll tie this to that test tag and see if this meter works. We'll give this a run. And now I can adjust that. Now you could make a needle that's a bitmap and have it a nicer looking needle or a thicker needle. But you can see when I'm down to 0, I'm kind of down to this side, which is the negative 135 degrees, and positive 135 degrees over here. The next step that I'm going to do is turn this into a symbol. And to do that, I need to select everything and right click and say create linked symbol. And here we're going to create a new folder called Gauge, and I want this to be a Gauge. We'll just call this 01 for now. Oh, you know what? Something that I missed, and it's just so easy and quick. I'm going to go back to it. On the LED segment meters, let me save this screen as Gauge. On the segment meters here, one of the things that you can do, so I'm going to go back to this one, edit link symbol, is you can move these into a horizontal orientation, save that as horizontal, and have a different looking kind of level meter, if you will, or a vertical, or a LED meter. So let's put these over this way, and I will do a save as. And instead of vertical, we'll call this horizontal. We'll save that. And now if we want to add that, so that's in the LED, horizontal. And if I tie that to this same tag, which is test tag, put that in here. Give this a run. We'll see how that looks. So a couple different variations on that same. Sorry, just wanted to go back to that and show that. So, okay, so let's go back to this gauge here. Now we need the scale on here. We could add a scale, the little marks, the little tick marks, either in a 3D, not a 3D, sorry, a third-party graphics package. Or I could put lines on here within InduSoft. I'm not going to do that for now. I'll let you do that. That takes some time to do. But what I am going to do is put some displays on here that will show you the minimum and maximum as we go around, or the values that we're at. So how we're going to do that, first we have to go back into the symbol editor by right-clicking, edit link symbol. And now within here, I'm going to add a rectangle, and I remember that this is about 135 degrees down here, or 135 degrees. And I'm going to put a little rectangle, and I'm going to turn off the border, I'm going to turn off the background, and then here I'm going to put the same idea, in curly brackets, # tag name, and a colon. But in here, for the scale, I'm going to show, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do minimum, # #min : 0, close curly bracket. So this will show the minimum value and prompt us for the minimum property. But there's going to be a little bit more so that I don't get leading zeros or trailing zeros or floating point. I'm going to use the built-in function called truncate, T-R-U-N-C, and close this in parentheses, and then finally close it up with a curly bracket. Now let's give this a try. Now, when we save this, what we're going to present, let's clean this up a little bit here. Let's edit link symbol, and now I need to go back into this needle. I forgot to change that. Instead of test tag, we're going to put in here # tag name, and for the minimum and maximum, we're going to use the #min : 0, #max : 100. And what I forgot to do is get rid of the border and the fill, and that should leave us with just that text. And we're going to go ahead and give that a try and see if this runs. So now here I have the min and max. Not sure why my tag name didn't come up, but let's go and give that a look, because I need that tag name to be able to configure this needle here. Because I didn't put the colon afterwards, that's why. Put the colon, and then what we should have is the # tag name, and I'll tie it to that, what did I call it here? Let's go back and look what I called this tag name on here, test tag. So we'll configure this to test tag, and we'll set the minimum at 0 and the maximum at 100. And when we run this, we should see a 0 come up in this area here. We do, and I should be able to do this. Alright, so we're approximately on that. So let's now configure this to have the scale the rest of the way around. What I'm going to do is copy this up here to about the 20% mark, the 40% mark, the 60% mark, the 80 and the 100% mark. And let's see. Somebody jumped in and said that I was missing the colon earlier. Thank you. Apologize because I can't pay attention to the chat window 100% of the time, but thank you for throwing that in there. I do appreciate that. The next thing that we're going to do is configure this caption for this 20%, and it's very similar to what we did on the LED sliders. And just to save a little bit of time, I am going to copy this off screen that I have and paste it in here and explain this. It's very similar. What I have is the maximum minus the minimum, that will give us the offset, multiplied by, in this case, 20% or 0.2, which will give us this value here, all truncated, and then with the offset, which is the minimum. Again, I'm going to be posting these up, or we'll give you the link of where you can download these applications from the morning webinar and the afternoon webinar, so you don't have to write this frantically down. So then what I'm going to do is copy this and then go back into each one of these and change it to 40%, 60%. And you can get as fancy as you want to, or modify these as you need to, but 80%. And then the last one is as easy as it was with the minimum. We can just say max, and have to keep that same convention there, so max : 100. So if we put that together, give this a run. Minimum 0, maximum 100 in test tag, and when we run this, we then should see it auto-configure to 0, 20, 40, 60, 80, and I could position these a little bit better than I have just by some testing and some trial and error. But what I wanted to show you is, let's say that I took this minimum and said this was 50 and the maximum was 200, let's say. It's going to auto-calculate that scale for me, so it's really nice. Come in here, and so it goes 50, and it auto-calculates everything in between just because of those formulas. Another thing that you might want to do is, I'm going to edit this and put another little rectangle down here, and again I'm going to configure this so it's sunken, and we'll use kind of a light middle gray. And in the caption, we're going to put that tag name, so we'll get the actual value out of it. So # tag name, colon, close it up. And one last thing, I'm going to copy this up, expand this a little bit, and you want to have some kind of label on here. So what we're going to do is, inside of curly brackets, we're going to have # label, colon, and then in quotes, label. That'll be a reminder that you have to have the quotes, or you will have to have the quotes when you replace this in the custom properties. And now, when I save this and run, actually, let me go in and configure, because now we're presented with this label property. Let's say this is going to be temperature. And when we run this now, you should be able to see the word temperature. There's the actual value. And we've got kind of a nice looking meter that's come out of it. Let's take this one step further, and I'm going to put an alarm set point on here. And just to save some time, I'm just going to do one. I'm going to do the low limit set point. To do the low limit set point, I'm going to have to explain something really quick. Tag names, the way that the alarm limit set points are, is they are actually properties of the tags. And if we take a look here in the help system, and we go under tags, tag properties, list of tag properties, and we're going to scroll down here. There's a lot of different tag properties that you can get at, but the alarm limits are some of the tag properties that you can get at. High, high limit, high, low, 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 so on and so forth. And we're going to get at the low limit, and notice here that it's read writable, so I can set that. Now let me show you how we can set that up initially, that low limit. Shoot, one more thing I wanted to show you on there. Tags, tag properties, list of tag properties. How you get at those is you use the tag name, then a minus greater than, and then the property. So this would be the property, and this would be the tag name. So how we're going to get at those, or configure those first, probably the easiest way, is here under tasks, I'm going to set up an alarm worksheet that will automatically do this for us. So here on test tag, I can set up a low limit. I'm going to set up a limit of 20, and if I don't do this, somebody remind me to go back in and set my min and max on my scales there to below 50, and we'll say low limit reached or exceeded, or just low limit, and save this as sheet number 1. Now what that has done, if we take a look at that test tag here in our object finder, under properties, you can see that the alarms, what that's done is that's enabled this low, set the limit, and here's the message, and now we can get at that low limit set point. Now let's do another thing here. I'm going to draw a closed polygon, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. You'll get the point. And I'll fill it in and change it to a solid line, weight of 1, black, and fill color of yellow. And then I want to scale this down. I want to make it small and kind of be able to rotate around the face of this thing. Well, I drew it kind of big to give myself some room here, but a tip or a trick to scale this down. I can right click on this and group it, even though it's a single object, and then it'll give me these little handles here, and I can reduce it down. Now, it is 11 pixels wide and 17 pixels tall. So it's 11 pixels wide. I'm going to move this up here. Actually, I don't want to move it right there. I want to copy this, and I want to go inside of the symbol. So I'm going to edit the link symbol. I'm going to paste it right here at the top, and then I'm going to center it with the circle here, or align it. And now I'm going to put a rotation animation on it. And why can't I rotate that? Oh, because it's still grouped. So if I ungroup it, and then I can apply the rotation animation to it. And we'll go in here. Now the tag name here is going to be the same, the tag. No, it's not going to be the exact same. What we're going to do is give you, the user or the developer, the ability to fill out what tag this goes to. So we're going to call this tag alarm, ALARM low, and the minimum will be the same minimum that we used before, and the maximum will be the same. And the rotation, we're going to have those same rotations, so that'll be minus 135 to plus 135. And now, the reference point, it has to reference a point that's off of the object down here. And that's why I looked to see how big it was. It was 11 wide. So what I'm going to do is reference this top left corner, but then I'm going to offset by a certain amount here. I'm going to offset that by roughly half of the 11 pixels, so that's 5. And I know since I made this specifically 256 pixels tall, that I'm going to make this 128 pixels. So that should rotate around the center point, or close enough, and with a little bit of adjustment, you can get this to work just fine. So there's the alarm tag low, and let's see, can't forget the colon at the end of it. And let's see here, put in here, save. Save changes, yes. And now when I configure this, it's going to have an extra set point here, which is the alarm tag, tag alarm low. And what we're going to use is that same naming convention that I showed you a minute ago. So we use the test tag minus greater than low limit. And now it should take on that. Somebody, see anybody remind me that I need to bring this back down to a value here. Let's just set this back to 0 to 100, because that original set point for that alarm is 20. If you remember, we set this in here as 20. So, all right, let me delete this little object off the screen here. Now when we run this, we have that 20 that shows up there. And before I go any further, what I'm going to do is quickly put on an alarm window here. And I'm going to configure another slider here that's going to give us the ability to set that set point. So that will give us low limit. And we can adjust that if we want to. Oops. Test tag minus greater than low, L-I-M-I-T. Can't spell today, sorry. And now when I run this, the set point is still at 20, and when we bring the value below that low limit, we'll get the test tag has reached the low limit. And if I adjust this up here and I'll acknowledge my alarm, now I can change my set point here on the fly. And you might put this in a secured maintenance or a setup area. Let's set this at roughly 40 here, or set this at 40. And now when we come below 40, you can see that it's going to set the alarm off. So that's a very configurable, and what I would do is to maybe make 3 or 4 of those. So I would have a low, low, a high, and a high, high, and have 4 different set points that I could configure those off screen. I've even done one where I've changed the color of these little pointers within the runtime as well. So that's kind of a little bit of an advanced meter, and show you very quickly how we can make some nice meters there. So that's our gauges. So let's go ahead and save this and close it. And now let's see what else we were going to do. Let's go back into the presentation here. And we're going to do some alarm lights. And what I did is I went online. Now I don't advocate stealing anybody's graphics, but you'll get the idea here. What I've done is I've taken some graphics from the internet of a rotating alarm beacon here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that and paste that into one of our screens just as a tracing point. Let's go back in here into graphics and insert new and paste this. Now I'm going to want this just a little bit larger here, so I'll scale that up. Now I'm not going to use this graphic in my application. I'm just using it as a kind of a reference or a tracing. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw 2 different objects, this lens and then this base. And you can see how you can see through this lens and see the base in the back. So let's start here, and again I'm just going to make this very quickly here because I know we're going to run out of time, but I'll just very roughly trace around the edges here, and I would probably turn off the snap to grid for a real application. This is going to give me a lot of extraneous points, but you'll get the idea. And then what I'll do is I'll change this from this blue and then a red fill color here. And then what I'll do is I'll apply a transparency. That's here under the visibility. and I'll make this roughly about a point. And I can see I got a couple of points out of whack here. So that's going to be our lens. And now what I'm going to do is draw another object that will be our base. And let me go turn off the snap to grid. And we'll go here, and we'll just kind of roughly trace around this. And close that up, and we'll change this to no, fill, and solid. Okay, so now we have these two objects. I can delete this and push this one to the front. And now when we run this, if I put another object, let's say a little circle of some sort, and I'll configure this to be white here. And I'll put this in, I'll push this behind that lens. Now when I run this, you should be able to see, because of the transparency, you should be able to see through that. And you can. Now what I would do would be to turn this into a symbol and use the blink properties on here. Let's say that here under graphics, we'll turn on visibility. And when the tag name that you want, we'll say if open parenthesis # tag name. And a thing with a Boolean type tag, in order to get it to show up in the symbol library, instead of having a blank there, it's probably a good idea that you put in :blink slow, and what that will do is that'll reference that and show that up in the library. Now, so if that tag is true, then what I'm going to do is comma, I will have this be blink slow, and otherwise I will have it 0. And so when the tag name is true, it'll blink. When it's off, it won't show up at all. So I can come in here, put this back on top of here, right click, create this as a linked symbol. We'll create a new folder, alarm, and we'll call this alarm light 1, and save that. And now when we configure this, we have that tag. So I'll put a alarm on, and that doesn't exist. I'm going to make it a Boolean. And we'll put a switch on the screen so we can see that. So let's go into switches here, and we'll choose this nice little toggle switch over here, this switch. And we'll configure this to that alarm on tag, and for both the command and the state for that switch. And when we run this, if all is well, when we flip this on, we can see that blinking in the background. And I've experimented with some different techniques, and I'll show you here. I'm going to jump over to another project that I did. And show you some of the little bit more advanced techniques. Let's see, where did I do that at? Symbols 2. And I will try to include this. I'll paste this into the project before I upload the link to it, so that you guys have a reference of this. What I ran into when I was doing this is that I want this beacon to rotate, but the problem is that I couldn't put the logic inside the symbol to have a counter that would rotate. So what I did is I ended up putting it on the graphics script here that would count up to 25 and start back over again. So I'll include this code as well so that you can do that. But the basic idea here is that we get these rotating lights that kind of flash when the alarm is on. So here's some little testing that I did, and here's kind of the finished product. So maybe that's something that you'll like to see how it's done. So there's a lot of stuff going on inside of that, but what I just created for you was kind of the basic idea of that. Let's see here. Somebody asked that I've been using rectangles for text, so rectangle caption versus text object. Either one, there's pluses and minuses to both. I've happened to find that the rectangles for these types of things make a little bit better, because I can scale them up a little bit better, a little bit differently, and I can always turn on some frames on them and get them to look a little bit more cosmetically pleasing, if you will. So let's see, what was the next one that I was going to do? Some clocks. What I'm going to do is save some time. I'm going to show you one that I created before. I'm going to create a new screen and go into my symbol library, and then I'm going to break it apart and show you what I've done. Now we have date and time has some clocks built into it, and I wanted a little bit more fancier one for a project that I worked on, but I was able to steal some ideas on how these were able to take a 24-hour clock and turn it into a 12-hour clock, and then display the day of the symbol. So I went and created my own. I did another one that was some different color variations here. And what I'll do is I'll grab the blue one here. And the way that this worked is, let me edit this link symbol. There's two different rectangles that I have here that I'm using the caption field on. And they're basically exactly the same thing, but I have one colored blue and one colored white so that I get this little offset drop shadow on here. Now the configuration, I could simply put the time in here, but this goes a little bit step further. This actually configures this to say if the hour is 0 or the hour is 12, meaning midnight or noon, then display 12. If it's less than 12, you want to just show the hour, and if it's greater than 12, then we'll subtract 12 from it. That'll take our 24-hour clock and turn it into a 12-hour clock. The next one is formatting the minutes. Now this format command is taking this %02s, is taking a string that's the minutes, and it's formatting it to have 2 characters, so I don't drop off my extra little leading 0 there if I have, let's say, 0.5 seconds, let's say. And then I do again the same thing with the seconds. I always have 2 digits there. And then the last one is to show AM or PM at the end. And then what I did is, in a very similar fashion, I configured just another rectangle. So you can, I'm sorry, this is actually a piece of text. So whoever asked that question of text versus rectangle, in this case I chose text. And here I have the text showing Monday, but then I have a visibility that when the weekday tag, now what that tag is here under the system tags. I have a whole host of tags that come along that show me the day, the date, and the year, and things of that nature. And one of those tags is called weekday, and it shows that Sunday is 0 and Saturday is 6. So Monday is 1, Tuesday is 2, so on and so forth. So what I've done is I've configured these to have visibility to show me that tag. And I'm going to just close this, and when I run this, what you can see is this will show the date and the time with the day kind of highlighted on there. So that's another nice little clock display that you can have. And again, I'm going to include these symbols with this project when we post it online. The next little thing that I wanted to show here is a pattern login. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of the details on how I configured this to save some time, but again, I'll include it. But I wanted to show you the idea here. So this is in a packaging demo that I did for Pack Expo last fall, and the way this is set up is that you have these 9 little just drag your finger across or drag the mouse. You don't even have to hold it down, because what it's working off of, and let me remember where this is here, if it's in the screen script. Yeah, what this is working off of is the cursor position. It's monitoring the cursor position, and not if it's pressed or not, just the cursor position. And then what it does is it uses the hint field to know if you've moused over what number. So I have these as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and it knows which one of those, and in the script it can tell if the hint is 1 or if the hint is 2, and then what it does is you go mouse over those, it builds a string into this string called login, and then it does a final comparison. Now in this one I'm just opening the home screen, but what you could use is the logon, let's see, where is it at here? Let's go here. the logon function, and the logon function allows you to set this password with a string, so I could use that string that I mouse over and put that in here and use it as my password and just log on. So let me show you how this works. When I run this for the packaging trade show, we had an example password so that people could know, and I put these little highlight arrows in here. For a real secure situation, you would not put the arrows for the password on the screen, but I'm just mousing over, and there's also some logic that if I move my cursor off for a second, it resets, and I can start over, and then when I get the real password in here, it automatically jumps and opens up that screen. So again, I'm going to include that in the I'll bury all that logic in there and show you how we do that and put that in the project that we include after the webinar here. So let's now go back, and there was some requests that we had come in for a topic that I was going to cover, but I didn't have very much time this morning, and I'm already at the top of the hour. What I'm going to show now is a little bit of an advanced topic, and what it's using is class tags inside of a symbol. In this case, I'm going to make a tank, and I'm going to do this quickly. Just the idea is not the graphic part of this, but the how this is configured. So here we'll do properties. We'll have solid line. We'll make it a weight of 1. We'll make it black, and we'll fill it with a fill effect of black to white. We'll have this going vertically, and this will give us kind of a tank-looking thing. Let's spread this out here a little bit. But I might do a cutaway view or put bar graphs on here. But the idea here is we're going to have a level, a temperature, and a pressure, and then we're going to be able to create 3 of these tanks. So before I get going, class that will represent the makeup of that tank. And I'm going to call this a C tank. And if you don't understand classes, feel free to take a look at our online video training, and it goes through an explanation of that. I'm going to create this with members of temperature, and we'll just create this as a real. We'll create pressure as a integer, and a level as an integer as well. Just showing that you can mix and match these. I'm sorry, as a real is what I wanted to do. Now that I have those 3 different members in there, then I can create a tag. I'll go in here and create a tag called tank that we want 3 of those. We'll have 0, 1, and 2. So we'll have the highest element number is 2. And instead of an integer type, I'm going to make this as a type C tank. And now what I can do is make this reference, let's see, I have to make this a bar graph first. And now what I'm going to do is this bar graph is going to have that same idea of having the tank tag and a colon, and then in here I'm going to use tank, then the tank number. In this case, it'll be the element of the array, or and then dot temperature. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy this and configure that to be pressure. And then level. When I make this a symbol, we're going to call this tank. We'll go into there. We'll call this tank class _01. Now what you can see is it's presented us with that tank tag, and now what I can do is let's try this first. Let's put a slider here on the screen. Make sure that I did this correctly. I'll put slider 1 on here, and what I want to tie it to is the tag called tank 0 dot temperature. And when I run this, I should be tied to that first bar graph. Okay. This symbol. And now I can change this to point to tank 1. Now that should be a different tag, and if I change this to point to tank 1 temperature, you can see how very quickly I can set up multiple parameters. This could be a motor, this could be a pump, whatever you want to out of it. So now, just by changing that element number, I can change its reference. So that's pretty much, let's see, I think everything that I wanted to show you. I did have some questions come in during registration on some new symbols, some HVAC symbols. I'm going to show you that. And let's see here. Let's go back in here, and I will run. We have some new symbols that we're coming out with. I'm thinking they're going to be out in Service Pack 3. That'll be in the March time frame, March or April time frame. We're going to save this as tanks. And just to show you a few of these, we'll run this. So we've got some motors, and this is going to be the bitmaps. I think are going to be stripped out, and these are only going to be PNGs. So this is just a pre-look at what these are going to be. Some new pumps, some new valves, some new tanks, and some pipes. I'm sorry, tanks, pipes. There we go, on that same screen there. And then I wanted to go back into show some of the, let's see, where is it? Some HVAC symbols that we have. So let me go back here to my projects. And I forget what we called it. Let's see if I can find it real quickly. I think they're in here. There's the building automation, link symbols. So there's some duct work and some different building automation and HVAC type symbols. So hopefully that helps you out. So those are some questions that came up. I had a very specific question and regarding symbols and troubleshooting. So I'm going to ask you that you contact our technical support on that one, because it's a kind of looks like a little bit of a difficult topic, and we're kind of over time already. I apologize for not trying to troubleshoot that with you here. So yeah, because some of these might take a little bit of a long time. So I appreciate all the comments and the good feedback that we've got. Let's see, symbols with class tags, I just covered that. So it looks like I've answered all the different questions. So if there's any other questions, feel free to shoot those in here now. But we really do appreciate everybody coming in and joining us today, and all of our webinars. We hold these every few weeks, and we really like to thank you for paying attention to InduSoft Web Studio and using our products and showing an interest in our products. So thank you, and that's it for today. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye.